I'm Ann Claire Roberson, Director of Baseball Operations with USA Baseball, and this is Baseball Playground.
This is the Baseball Playground. I'm Coach Matt McGowan, and we're here with the one and only Ann Claire Roberson, the head of USA Arizona, otherwise known as AC, correct?
Correct.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, of course. Happy to be here. Happy to be with you guys.
Thank you for letting us do this here. I mean, you are the brainchild behind this, and we truly appreciate it.
I wouldn't go that far, but I appreciate it.
So tell us a little bit about your role and how you even started with USA Baseball.
Yeah, so I'm Director of Baseball Operations. I've been with USA Baseball since 2018. I actually started off as an intern, which is like many other people in our office. A lot of people start off as interns. So graduated college, became full-time staff, and have been doing baseball operations since.
Obviously, you love baseball and you love what you're doing. Have you seen the growth in our game because of the World Baseball Classic now that so many people want to be a part of a USA Baseball event or things like that?
Yeah, for sure. Obviously, that event has a big impact on us as an organization, but obviously on baseball around the world and around the country for sure. Yes, this past year, World Baseball Classic, I think definitely brought more awareness of USA Baseball across the country, really, but absolutely. I mean, the game is continuing to grow tremendously at each age group, all levels, so for sure.
This is my 9th year coming to this event. It's probably my favorite event to have kids come because every year you're here, there's always college coaches and always people here to see the next group of, kids and talent. But a lot of parents don't believe it. Sometimes they're like, "Oh no, like it's just for money, or it's not a real, colleges aren't really there." Can you explain? There are colleges here. There is people here watching every game.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I mean, the amount of emails that I just get from college coaches about this event, even if they're not here scouting, they have the rosters. They're following on Game Changer, so things like that. But there is a big presence here from college coaches, and obviously we're trying to grow that every year moving forward. But it's always been a big presence here, college coach-wise. I mean, a lot of kids can get recruited out of just this one event because that's where coaches see them. But yeah, so obviously it's kind of heavier on the older age groups, obviously. I mean, they still come out to the 14 age group, but realistically, you're not going to get recruited at that age just quite yet. But specifically this week at the 17U age group, there's been a lot of college scouts out here.
No, absolutely. And I think that with the new rules that are coming into college baseball where they can't talk to you till August 1st,
right?
This event is going to become the showcase, the West Coast showcase, and the North Carolina one will be the East Coast showcase.
Right.
Because they're not allowed to talk to you, but everyone's going to be here. They're going to have lists. They're going to have you in person. And it's one of those things where I think next year 16U and 17U are just going to be unbelievable.
For sure.
Talk to us about that. What do you see that growth happening? Or is the tournament going to grow into more teams, or is it going to stay the same? Tell us a little bit.
Yeah, so we've actually already had that discussion a little bit. We're actually leaning towards having fewer teams in the event, solely just to get the talent level up.
Sure.
But yeah, it's one of those things where we'll have to kind of work out the kinks. I mean, there's kinks every year with the way that travel ball changes, just baseball in general, the way things are changing. We also have to understand those changes and adjust to continue to make the event better. But yeah, so we don't know yet, but realistically, the events will probably be more select. We don't know how many teams we'll have next year. We are hoping to add a 13U age group out here next year, so that would be big because they do have 13U in North Carolina. But yeah, so the biggest thing for us is, sure, we want to have a lot of teams in this event because, yes, that means we see more players, but we also want it to be the right teams, the right players, those that really have the talent to move on to the next level for USA Baseball.
Absolutely, and the right people, right? And
exactly.
And that's what this event's for. And some years, my team in particular has done great, made it to, our 15s made it to the top 8 or 9. And then I've had teams that, have really talented players, but unfortunately, they get beat by some really good teams, or, kid couldn't pitch this day because a scout might be seeing this kid this day. And so it's one of those things where the opportunity is here. So players are getting the opportunity to showcase their talent. Now what you do with it is up to you. I mean, there's nothing, we can't hold your hand going through this. Talk about the task force and how the selection of the task force is made.
Yeah, so our task force are the guys that we bring in every week to scout all the players that are here. So they're made up of college coaches, high school coaches, guys that have been on our national team staffs for a number of years. But yeah, we bring in those guys. They scout every single game out here. So the 272 games that we have each week, we've got task force eyes on them. And ultimately, they're the ones who are selecting our national teams. So it really comes down to having a good task force, which leads to the national teams and the national team programs. But yeah, so I mean, they're obviously watching a lot of kids, watching a lot of baseball. We always regroup at the end of the day, have a task force meeting, and they literally go down the list and talk through the players. So they like what they talk about, what they like, what they don't like, if he's a national team guy, if he's a development guy, things that they can work on. I mean, they really get into the weeds in their conversations. They ask to see certain players at certain positions in the event, all that good stuff. So they really know what they're doing, and it's a really good crew out here every week.
Well, it's led to a lot of gold medals, too.
Exactly,
so,
yep.
I mean,
it starts here.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
And talk to us about the selection of USA. So you get an invite from here. You then end up in Cary, North Carolina, and then you're in the Stars and Stripes games. Yep. And then from there, it's really whittled down to, the right 20, right? Correct.
Yep. So, and it depends on the age group. So from this event as a whole, we're selecting for the 13U, 14U athlete development program, the 15U national team training camp, and the 16U, 17U national team development program. So all the age groups are covered out here. For the athlete development program for the younger kids, that event is in Cary in North Carolina. So kids from the Arizona event, the North Carolina event, and the NTIS event all get selected to ADP. I believe that's 48 players this year. I might have to double check that one. But a smaller event for that age group, and then that also has the potential to lead to the 15U national team maybe next year if they're age eligible. So, I mean, really across the board, task force, they're obviously looking for national team guys, but specifically for the 13U, 14U, and then the 16U, 17U, it's, okay, can we bring this player in, have him develop over a course of a few days or a week, then can he be ready next year for a national team? So that's why we have the development programs. But yeah, so similar situation with the NTDP, the older guys, very similar to ADP, bring them in for a few days, do development stuff on and off the field, which we harp on a lot. It's not always the on-field stuff. The off-field stuff definitely plays into it. But yeah, and then for the 15U national team, players are invited to training camp. So training camp this year will be 72 players, 48 coming from the North Carolina and Arizona because 24 have already been invited from NTIS last year. Nice. So yeah, they'll put those into teams out there and then cut that down to the final 20 roster, like you said. So it's an honor to make it through the first process, and it's, like we keep talking about, it's the right players who are on the final 20. It's not always your best player. Sure. It's sure they might have great stats and everything on a piece of paper, but are they a decent human being, and can we travel with them to a different country? So a lot of things.
Are they going to represent the country well?
Correct. Exactly. That's one of the biggest things that we focus on because that's who we are. We're representing our country. So yeah, definitely a lot of factors go into all of it.
it's an amazing process, and it's a lot of hard work. I think people don't realize it's not just picking, oh yeah, this kid, come on by. It's really detailed in what you guys are doing.
Correct.
Talk to that parent that kind of doesn't really know how to get their kid involved. Their son's really good. Mm-hmm. How do they get involved with maybe an NTIS or something like that?
Yeah, so the National Team Identification Series is our individual route, whereas the National Team Champs, Arizona, North Carolina, is obviously the team-based route. So we split the country up into 6 regions for NTIS, and each region hosts local tryouts. You have to, if you go to, let's say, one tryout, you have the opportunity to be selected to a round 2 tryout. And then from those round 2 tryouts within your region, players are selected from that to the Champions Cup, which we hold in August at the National Training Complex each summer. And then from that event is where we select the 12 players to the following year's National Team Development Program. So NTIS is, you're looking at the next year, whereas the Champs, you're looking at it for the current year.
Right now. What advice would you give a parent in the sense of like, hey, you know what, your kid's not getting many offers, you're not getting recruited right now, what would you say to that parent?
Yeah, I mean, obviously keep at it. You never know what could happen. There are late recruits all the time. I just say keep working at what you're doing, but get in touch with people. Reach out to local people that reach out to schools that your son is interested in. And it doesn't have to be a D1 school. I mean, guys go JUCO, D3, it doesn't matter. If they want to play college ball, they can work their way up eventually. So I mean, obviously don't get discouraged. Really just keep reaching out and communicate, and attending events like this, going through NTIS, just really getting seen as much as you can.
Absolutely. Now, what would you tell that player who's 13, 14, maybe just getting into high school, I want to play for the USA team? What advice would you give them?
I mean, it's
tough.
It is tough. I mean, to be on the 15U national team, or, I mean, really 12U, 15U, or 18U, it's hard. Because it's only 20 players out of hundreds that basically try out for the team. But it's one of those things that our task force also looks into, is how committed they are. So if you're a 12-year-old, 13-year-old, 14-year-old, and you want to make the 15U national team, you just have to stay dedicated. Work on your weaknesses. Stay good in the classroom, focus on academics. That's part of it too. So it's really just, figuring out how you can become better and work your way up to earning a spot on the 15U national team. So
yeah, no, it sounds like, the 15U national team sounds like it's the hardest team to make, right? Because you play that summer, you're in Panama or Mexico or Venezuela or wherever it is, and you're rocking and rolling from whether it's NTIS guys,
right,
the national championship tournaments. Right. It's thousands of kids you're weeding.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I mean, honestly, all the national teams are hard to make.
But typically, if you make the 15U team, you have a better chance to make the 16U and 17U.
Of course. Yeah. Obviously, if we see you at a younger age, obviously we have eyes on you, so we're going to continue to follow you, yes. So if you're coming in for the 15U national team and we've never seen you before, does that put you at a disadvantage? Not necessarily. But it's just one way to still prove yourself that, hey, I can earn a spot on the 15 national team too.
Absolutely. This is amazing stuff. And we at the Baseball Playground, we developed a course to help students kind of navigate the recruitment process, right, and things like that. And I am such a big believer in these types of tournaments and going to camps. What would you if you looked in that camera right now, would you tell these parents, you need to come to this tournament if you want to get your kid the opportunity to be seen? Yeah, I mean, it's either this or NTIS. That's the 2 routes, and that's it. So if you really want to represent your country and play, be seen by a lot of colleges too. Every college is out here. It's exactly. It's not just USA. Correct, for sure. It's definitely not just USA. It's getting
recruited, being scouted, which affects your future. If you want to be a MLB player, you got to start somewhere. So it's definitely a really good stepping stone for younger athletes, those kids that are really looking to play in college. So yeah, if you want to take the right step and be scouted and play in a USA Baseball event, the National Team Championships is where to be.
I love it. We have our last 3 outs we're going to ask you. They're the hardest questions out of all.
Oh, boy.
Number 1 is, what is your favorite food?
That's a tough question. I'm a big foodie. I
said it was the hardest one. So.
Wow. Honestly, I'm a big pizza person.
Okay. Thin crust, thick crust, deep dish?
Not a deep dish person, but I'm going to be that person say I like pineapples on my pizza.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's Hawaiian style, right? Exactly. Rock and roll.
Yeah.
So,
Can't go wrong.
Number 2, what is your favorite movie?
Oh boy, that is tough. I mean, honestly, I'm not just saying this because of baseball, but Sandlot. I would say it's
Great
up there.
movie.
Yeah.
Benny the Jet. And then, favorite baseball player, alive or dead?
I'll say current Trey Turner. I'm an NC State grad, so I got to go with Trey.
I love it. Well,
Yeah.
Hey, Tommy Tanks, I know he left you guys.
Don't even get me started.
But what a home run last night. So.
Yeah, I know. Good for them. I was cheering for Wake, but yeah, sad that Tommy left us last year. So I'm a little hurt by that one still.
And thank you so much for being on the show. All this information you're giving these parents and players is key and vital to their growth and success.
Yeah.
Truly cannot thank you enough for putting on this event and dealing with all the craziness that goes on at these things. And, congratulations to you for having this role. And
thank you.
We're excited to hopefully be here again next year.
Yes, of course. No, appreciate you guys. Glad it always works out like this.
Absolutely.
So it's awesome to have you guys.
Well, thank you again.
Yeah. I'm Ann Claire Roberson, Director of Baseball Operations with USA Baseball, and this is Baseball Playground.